Hello, today we're going to be taking a look at how you can move a WordPress website from one web host to another web host. In this case, we're taking a look at truebluemarketview.com, which is currently hosted with HostGator. We can confirm that by pinging the A record, and you do that by just simply pinging the domain. So if we ping truebluemarketview.com, we see what IP address that resolves to, which is currently IP address 192.232.251.156. And if you look up who owns or has that IP registered, you'll see that the net name is HGBlock-8. And I can tell you that that's HostGator simply because that's my current web host is HostGator. One of the things that you want to be sure to do probably about a day prior to actually changing from one web hosting provider to another web hosting provider would be to change the TTL, also known as the time to live of your records. And the reason for that is because what a time to live is, or a TTL value is for, is that is going to be the length of time that that value is going to be held in the cache of a name server. So what that means is that when somebody goes to your website by, for example, typing in www.truebluemarketview.com, their computer is going to request the IP address that truebluemarketview.com is assigned to. And once it knows the IP address, it then contacts that IP and requests whatever data is loaded at that site. And that is how Internet Explorer or Chrome or Firefox will go ahead and load the website into a person's web browser. So before you move from one web host to another, it would be nice if your time to live was fairly low, so that if you make a typo or some other mistake, if you misunderstand something, you put in the wrong IP address with your new web host, it won't take an exceptional length of time to correct that mistake. Now here at Namecheap, the way they represent the time to live, they don't give you the opportunity to customize the time to live. They have automatic 60-minute, 30-minute, 20-minute, 5-minute, and 1-minute. And the time to live I currently have set to 5-minute, as you can see. A lot of times on other name server providers, whether it's with your current web host or whether it's with your domain registrar, if you actually register your domain with one company and host your website using another company, which is what I currently do with truebluemarketview.com, then a lot of times the TTL value is going to be represented in seconds. So it'll be 300, which would be 300 seconds, which would be 5 minutes. Or it might be 1,000 or 5,000 or something like that. So if your time to live ends up being like 12 hours or 14 hours, and during the transition from one web hosting provider to another web hosting provider, if a mistake is made, or if somebody, for whatever reason, if somebody provides you with the wrong information, or if you simply enter the wrong information and you don't realize it for 20 minutes or an hour or what have you, and then you realize there's a mistake, then the propagation time to update the correction will be longer if your time to live is long. So, in short, I suggest the day before you move your web host, just make sure that you reduce the time to live to a fairly low value. To make a backup of your site, log into WordPress and go to Plugins. On the Plugins page, click on Add New. In the Search Plugins search box, search for a plugin by the name of Duplicator. Install Duplicator. Once the plugin is installed, activate the plugin. Now, on the left-hand side on your WordPress menu, go to Duplicator, Packages. Click on Create New. Check that your requirements all pass, or at least don't indicate any major problems. Click Next. This is a minor warning, so we're not going to worry about that. Click on Build. Make sure you download both the installer and the archive. Once the download's complete, just double check to make sure that you have the files. Logged into your Bluehost hosting account, click on Manage IPs to locate the IP address for your new site. Make sure you update your A records for your website, as you're going to need to be able to load your site on the new web host in order to run the installer package created with Duplicator. Look for a button that says something like Done or Save Changes to make sure that the changes that you made apply. Using a site such as whatsmydns.net, check the A record for your domain. So in our example, the domain is truebluemarketview.com. And as you can see, because the time to live was set so low, we only had to wait moments for the IP address to update. Now we're going to be able to access the installer on our domain. You can see currently that if we try going to truebluemarketview.com, no site loads. We're going to need to take the Installer.php and the archive file created by Duplicator and upload it to our new web host. To do this, we're going to use an FTP program. In this case, we're going to use FileZilla. Once you enter your host name, your username, and your password to connect to your new web host via FTP, you're going to need to copy the files over to your new web host so that you may install them. And you're going to want to place these files in public_HTML. While logged into your new web host, in this case Bluehost, click on the C panel. Click on MySQL Databases. I am going to need to make a database for this WordPress installation, and for the database I'm just going to call it TrueBlue. And then just click Create Database. Go back. And remember that although I named the database TrueBlue, the database is actually going to be TrueBly9 underscore TrueBlue, because that's the prefix for this account. You can see that database listed here, and you can also see that there are no users currently listed. Scroll down the page to MySQL users, and in this case I'm just going to create a new user. And remember that there is a prefix. So it's going to be prefix underscore and then whatever username that is created. Click Create a User. Now we're going to need to attach the user to the database. Make sure to select all privileges to create an admin account. And now we see that there is a user listed under the database that we've created. Now, go to your domain. In this case, we're going to truebluemarketview.com/installer.php. Go ahead and create a new database. Usually for the host, localhost will work. If not, just type your domain, such as truebluemarketview.com. Once you've entered the information, click Test Connection, and then run deployment. And now we see that the site is back up. We now see that when we ping truebluemarketview.com, it's resolving to 50.87.248.113, and you can see that the org ID for this IP is blueh-2, which is Bluehost, which is the host that we have now moved truebluemarketview.com to. However, we're still not quite done. On the Duplicator installer page, go ahead and click on Run Update. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on Save Permalinks. And in here, just go ahead and click on Save Changes. And let's go ahead and click on Test Site next. Once again, we see that the site is up. Finally, we're going to click on Security Cleanup. We're going to remove the installer files. And finally, don't forget to go back to your name server and increase the TTL, or time to live, to a higher value. This is especially important for sites that don't get a lot of traffic. If you don't get hundreds or thousands of hits per day to your website, then the value or the IP address for your domain probably won't be in the name server cache. Because what ends up happening is if I go to truebluemarketview.com, if the name server that my browser is querying for the IP address for that website isn't already in the cache, it'll look it up, and once it gets that information goes into the cache. So if somebody else a minute later comes to TrueBlue Market View, they won't have to wait for the time for the name server to find the IP address, so it'll already be in the cache. And that helps your website to load a little bit faster. And that is why you want to increase the time to live. And that's about it. That is one way that you can move your WordPress website from one web host to another web hosting provider. And in this video, we saw how to move from HostGator to Bluehost, and we also saw how to update DNS using the Namecheap domain name registrar and Namecheap name servers. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll catch up with you guys again in the next video.